Good evening. My name is Michael Schmidt, and I'm chairman of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. Seated to my right is Vice Chairman Robert Cicero, and to my left, Dr. Talina Matthews, our third commissioner. We're accompanied here tonight by several Public Service Commission staff members who are John Lyons, Ariel Miller, Ben Bellamy, Connie Hunt, Cabrenda Warfield, and Andrew Milnikovich, and Jim Rhodes. We're here primarily for the purpose of taking public comment on the application of Louisville Gas and Electric Company for approval of an adjustment in rates for both natural gas and electric service. The case number is 2018-00295. If you were here for the earlier informational session, you heard about this application in greater detail and also received an explanation as to how the Public Service Commission will go about reaching a decision in this case. If you missed the presentation, it is available on the Public Service Commission's website, which is psc.ky.gov. The presentation also has information about the parallel case 2018-00294 filed by Kentucky Utilities Company, which is a sister company to Louisville Gas and Electric. We will be conducting a public meeting in that case next week in Lexington, but we will hear comments on the LG&E case here tonight, or the Kentucky Utility case, should anyone wish to offer those comments. We understand that any matter that affects public utility rates is likely to produce strong and differing opinions. We trust that everyone here this evening will present their comments in a respectful manner and respect the right of everyone else to be heard. Now let me explain how we'll proceed for the remainder of this event. We're here to listen to the public. Therefore, there will be no presentations by Louisville Gas and Electric or any of the other parties to this case, nor will there be any question and answer period involving the parties. The Commission will be taking sworn testimony from them, those other parties, in a forthcoming evidentiary hearing. Allowing questions and answers on the record as part of this meeting would create a potential for procedural problems in the later case. However, representatives of Louisville Gas and Electric, as well as a member of the Office of the Kentucky Attorney General, have agreed to remain after the conclusion of the public comments to meet informally with anyone here who has any individual questions they wish the company to address. At this time, would the representatives of Louisville Gas and Electric please stand up so that members of the audience can see who you are in case they have a question after the meeting? Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Cook, on behalf of the Kentucky Attorney General's office, the Attorney General's office intervenes in these cases on behalf of the public. And so Mr. Cook, the Attorney General, through Mr. Cook in this case, is the official public representative. Those of you who wish to speak should have indicated your intention to do so when you signed in this evening. If you have not signed in, you're still welcome to speak, and I will invite you to do so after the others who have signed up to speak have made their comments. Based on the number of people who've indicated a desire to speak, and so far there are 20, we're going to allow 5 minutes per speaker so that everyone has an opportunity to be heard. Our timekeeper, Ariel Miller, will let you know when you have a minute remaining by holding up a yellow card, and when your time is up by showing you a red card. Those of you who do not wish to speak may submit comments in writing. We have comment forms available at the registration desk. You may turn those in tonight to a member of the Public Service Commission staff, or mail or fax them to the Public Service Commission. The address and phone number are on the forms. You may also submit comments by email through the PSC website, psc.ky.gov. I can assure you that all of the comments that are sent in writing, either tonight or later, or have been filed in writing in our files in Frankfort, are all read by the commissioners. So anyone who submits a written comment can be assured that your comments have been read and will be taken into consideration in any final decision of the case. As you can see, this meeting is being recorded, and the video will be available on the Public Service Commission website. A summary of the public comments received tonight will also be prepared for the PSC and become a part of the case record, which is also available on the website. All written comments will also be entered into the case record. Written comments will be accepted through the date of the formal evidentiary hearing in this case. That hearing, during which Louisville Gas and Electric Company, as well as its sister company, Kentucky Utilities, and the other parties will present their cases to the Public Service Commission and be subject to cross-examination. It will begin at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, March 5th, at the Public Service Commission offices at 211 Sauer Boulevard in Frankfort, and may last several days. It is open to the public, and anyone here or anyone else can come, and if you're there when the hearing starts, you'll be able to make an oral presentation to the Commission before testimony is taken. The proceedings in Frankfort, the evidentiary hearing, will also be streamed live on the Public Service Commission website. Once again, that's psc.ky.gov. Three important things to keep in mind before we begin. Because the commissioners must rule on the Louisville Gas and Electric application, we cannot answer any questions pertaining to the substance of the case. However, questions you raise during this meeting may well be of assistance to the PSC and staff as we prepare for that hearing. And the PSC staff will be available after the public comment section tonight are completed to answer any questions which you may have regarding procedural matters. And the staff, would some of our staff stand up so that everyone will know where you are? And you can look at the back, Cabrenda Warfield, Andrew Milikovich, who made the presentation, Ben Bellamy, one of our lawyers, Ariel Miller, a financial analyst who's the timekeeper, and we won't be able to speak to you, but they will. The Public Service Commission has jurisdiction only over the rates and service of utilities. We have no jurisdiction over matters such as environmental standards or public health. Those are regulated by a number of federal and state local agencies. Therefore, the most helpful comments are those that directly address the merits of Louisville Gas and Electric Company's proposal with respect to the size and structure of the requested rate adjustment and the reasons for that adjustment. The legal standard which the Public Service Commission must follow as a matter of law in determining rates is that they must be fair, just, and reasonable. While the Public Service Commission is certainly aware of and sensitive to the impacts of rate adjustments on a utility's customers, Kentucky law does not include affordability as a consideration in setting rates. If you have concerns or questions about service or billing for individual accounts, the most effective way to have those addressed is to speak with a member of the Public Service Commission staff after this meeting, or call our toll-free consumer hotline at 800-772-4636 during regular business hours. Now, when you come up to speak, please state your name and place of residence. And again, please keep your comments to the allotted time of 5 minutes so that others may have an opportunity to address the Commission. Obviously, the reason why your address is important is because if you lived in Cincinnati, it would probably be inappropriate to be taking time to address a rate case in which you weren't a ratepayer. So at this time, we always invite any elected or public officials to come first and speak. And I know two of the representatives, state representatives from Louisville, had written letters asking for this hearing. And we always would have had the hearing anyway, but both requested, Mr. Booker and Ms. Scott, if either one of them are here or any other public representative or official, you can please come forward now and you'll be given the first opportunity to speak. Okay? If no one is here, we'll go down the list in the order that you have signed up. And the first on the list is Tammy Stewart.
Hello, my name is Tammy Stewart, and I live in Louisville, Kentucky, over on Old Station Road at Chenoweth Wood Apartments. I just want to say that, LGE is already making a 10% profit. How much more profit do they have to make? They also charge you to pay into a charity of 25 cents whether you want to or not for people that can't pay their LG&E. We're supposed to be able to decide whether we want to give to charity or not, but not LG&E. They demand it in their bills. This probably could be challenged in court, but I'd say it's probably not to mention expensive to get a lawyer here in Louisville and challenge it. So now I have multiple sclerosis, and I am disabled and on a fixed income of $984 a month, and I get $15 in food stamps. So I do have to buy my food. And there's other seniors that live in our subsidized apartment that are making less than I do. $600, $700. We pay our own heat in these apartments at Chenoweth Wood Apartments. We do pay for our own heat. The basic rate charge is something that we cannot even control by keeping our heat levels down, especially if it's a basic charge. Because, we're just trying to survive and keep our heads above water, so we don't become homeless. And sometimes I put gloves on my hands and I put jackets on, in the winter. And I can only do so much, you can walk around naked in the summer, I guess, in your apartment. But this is crazy. We can't even be comfortable anymore. And our money, it doesn't adapt to a rate change. If you don't have it, it can't adapt to it. I don't want to be out on the streets. And I know these other people that are making less than I am, that could be very true. Now, that $10 or $12 or so, that basic rate change, it's maybe a jar of peanut butter, 2 loaves of bread, 2 gallons of milk, a couple packs of ramen noodles maybe, possibly even a can of tuna fish. That $10 or $12 could be the difference of whether we have enough gas in our car or have to take an Uber for those that don't have that car to get to a doctor appointment, or possibly maybe even pay a co-payment to get your own medicine that we need. We sure don't have a money tree in our apartment, or no way of going to the bank and say, I need this money, just give this to me. They're making 10%. They don't need any more. So I'm just here to ask you all to say no to this rate increase in basic charge, and I'm here to ask you all to have some compassion for our lives over the greed for the almighty dollar of these corporations. God bless you all, and y'all have a beautiful, peachy day.
Thank you. I hope I can read this properly. Nancy, is it DeMartra?
Nancy DeMatra. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. I am standing for people who are working tonight and who were unable to be here because they have to work. I am very concerned about this yearly situation where our utility is always being raised. And what appears to be happening is, in the winter, there's a request for electric increase, and in the summer for gas increase, which people are busy trying to pay the bills they have at hand. The people who are working poor do not have even $5 left when they pay their bills. Happening, it is unreasonable. I also want you to know that over 40% of the people here in Jefferson County are below the poverty guideline. And I don't think when these corporations ask for increases, they even think about that. So my concern is that there needs to be compassion, that people need to be given the opportunity to try to live on what they have, which is very slim, and there not be any increases. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Boone.
Good evening. My name is Emily Boone, and I live in the Clifton neighborhood of Louisville, Kentucky. And I appreciate you all taking the time to hear us and listen to what we have to say. It is my understanding that a public utility is to service the people, not that we are to service them and they be guaranteed a 10% profit, that we're in a capitalistic free enterprise system and 10% profit is guaranteed. That does not seem to, that seems like a conflict of interest there. But it isn't a conflict of interest if you're only interested in padding the bottom line. Also, the other thing that is very interesting to me is that when we ask questions, and the person who presented was very polite and gave as much information as possible, they can only do what the utility presents to them. But could you all require that the utility present their information in ways that it does not take a PhD in research to get the information? We are not stupid. We do not have the time when we're putting food on the table and rearing our family and being responsible citizens to do extensive statistical work. So instead of, it seems like the company has presented their material in the way to maximize and obfuscate the facts and to say, oh, I'm sorry, you aren't a CPA. I can't expect you to understand. That's not said that way, but when I'm referred to thousands of papers to research it, that doesn't seem to give an answer. So anything you can do to make the information from the company more clear so that one can get it in an elevator speech. I think we're all acquainted with elevator speeches. So I see no need to guarantee the utility a 10% rate of return. I don't think the stock market does that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Tony Whalen.
Tony?
Okay, I guess he had no. Noel Avery? No. Arnita Gadsden? These were marked no. Should've.
Hi, I'm Arnita Gadsden, and I'm the Environmental Climate Justice Committee Chair for the state NAACP. And I'm here just to represent those facts that were brought to us. and I will represent those as best I can. First, I'd like to thank the Commission for taking the time to discuss concerns and answering many of my questions. I appreciate you ensuring me that incentive programs for low-income residents will not only be retained but strengthened. And I would like to say that again. I'm really looking forward to those low-income programs to be retained and strengthened. You indicated your choice to use your authority to conduct hearings on rate filings rather than rely on settlement agreements because they lack transparency for ratepayers and do not afford the Commission and its professional staff to ensure a fair, just, and reasonable outcome. We discussed the fairness of utility rates. The one thing that I'd like to just highlight, I'll say again, is that fair, just, and reasonable. Fair, just, and reasonable. But I understand that that may not be taken into consideration in the rates. We discussed the fairness of utility rates, and it is here where I would like to emphasize my concerns. In granting rate hikes, will the low incentive programs be considered and maintained when we're talking about the hikes in particular? How will any increase affect the low-income programs? Will it change any eligibility to qualify for those programs? In the discussions of organizations or interveners, it is my understanding that it is not the decision to deny intervention. It does not prevent, and it does not prevent participation. However, to those who may feel the interveners represent their interests, it could easily be perceived that prevention of their participation a questionable practice. Many entities are currently asking for rate increases, and we know that you're only here on behalf of the utilities. But when the city tonight is also talking about taxing insurance coverages, we're looking at increased water rates. There are people that have come before you that have already said that they cannot go any further. So I ask you to look at that fair, just, and reasonable effort. We discussed the possibilities of a meter initiative where someone said that we cannot control the rates that we have. In other words, if I go on vacation, turn down my thermostat, I'll come back and still have the same bill. I ask you to look at these and in looking at these, make sure that the residential customers do not subsidize natural gas rates and commercial rates. Thank you.
Thank you. Connor Allen.
My name is Connor Allen. I live on Morton Avenue in the Highlands. And so to talk about fairness, the first thing, I think it's very unfair that Metropolitan Housing Coalition and other groups were not allowed to represent low-income individuals. It's very difficult to come out to these meetings for a lot of people. You know, I don't own a car. It was difficult for me to get here, and I know, you know, a lot of other people with families and who, you know, may have to work right now can't make it out here. So we rely on those organizations to be our voice and intervene in these cases. I also don't think it's fair that LG&E is allowed to make, I think it was 9.8% profit per year, right? As a publicly regulated utility, I think that that's very unreasonable, especially, you know, considering that they've been making, you know, a large profit in the past. And as far as the structure of the rate increase is concerned, utilities are a necessity. It's like groceries. When I go to the grocery store, I am charged based on the groceries that I get. I'm not charged a flat fee every time I walk through the door of the grocery store. Now, I understand there's fixed costs that are associated with, you know, providing the services of a utility. However, you know, the significant increase in the fixed cost is going to unfairly burden lower income individuals and people who maybe just want to reduce their energy consumption. So I don't think any of that is fair. And I would ask the Public Service Commission to oppose the rate increase, and I would ask the Public Service Commission to specifically oppose the increase in the fixed costs that LG&E is requesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria Markle.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Victoria Markell. I live in the Crescent Hill area of Louisville, Kentucky. And tonight I'm here on behalf of the Louisville League of Women Voters. I know you're familiar with us. We speak up a lot. Specifically tonight, I am here to oppose the proposed LG&E rate increase by imposing a fixed meter cost. It's somewhat ironic that after decades of teaching us and telling us how to conserve energy, go out and buy energy efficient appliances, turn down the air conditioning, turn down the heater, it ain't gonna matter. They don't care about conservation anymore. They only care about getting our money. It is the League's belief that a rate increase of this type will disproportionately impact lower income customers, and so we ask you to reject this request. Since LG&E is a regulated monopoly, any changes in rates can only be approved by you. And I appreciate your taking the time tonight, not only the commissioners, but the staff to be here with us. And I hope you'll give careful consideration and reject this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Bryan.
Good evening. My name is Mary Bryan. I live in Old Louisville on 1st Street, and I'm an LG&E customer. I'm also on 2 boards for programs that provide utility service to low-income clients. And I'm very concerned about this charge. It's a huge increase for everyone, but particularly for low-income people, or people who are barely making it working or are on fixed incomes, and they are barely making it to right now. And with this increase, we're going to see more people that are without utilities, that were also by this fixed rate charge, they will have even less ability to have control over their, because it's not going to be based on their usage, so they can't conserve. We've stressed conservation in our programs through programs like We Care and Project Warm, and that's not going to work this time with this program. So I encourage you to reject this proposal, and we need to think about how this impacts the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Zaradnik.
My name is Greg Zaradnik. I'm a LG customer. I live in Louisville Metro, and I appreciate your being here. And I've been to meetings before and spoke, so I'll try and be brief. The part of the presentation, which was very good, talked about there's a 2-part process: the revenue requirement and the rate design. I think you are professional and have done a good job, so I'm going to leave the revenue requirement up to you all. Their costs go up, things happen. I'm okay with that. My problem is the rate design, which has been brought up already with some good comments. And one of the things I didn't like about the presentation, it said that the Public Service Commission but anyway, it said moving toward the ideal of fixed costs cover all fixed costs. Well, basic economics, I'm an engineer and a certified mediator, so I understand it. Every business has fixed costs and variable costs. It's basic. We all have fixed costs and variable costs in our everyday lives. So what I'm asking is that don't raise, if you have to, raise the rates, but don't raise the basic costs, because it's unfair. I'll get into a couple other issues with it. So that's what I'm saying is, look at what they need and give what they need or take away, but the fixed costs really hurt. It's like when I go to a service station and buy gas, or I go to a grocery store and buy food, they all have fixed costs, but they charge me just for what I walk away with. So I could choose what vehicle to drive, how to use my gas. I can choose what food to buy. I could buy good food or I could buy junk food. So if I'm going to be charged the same per month, I'm not going to care about that. Well, even like the Department of Defense says, you know, climate change may or may not be happening, whatever, but we all know we want to be more energy efficient. And raising those fixed costs to fight all that, take all that stuff away. So that's why another can't do it. Their marketing, they talk about energy efficiency like a prior speaker spoke, but this is totally against that. And like they do stuff like they say, oh, we're going to have electric vehicle charging stations, but there's a charging station that hasn't been signed up anybody since September of 2018 because their costs are so high on those stations, they discourage that too, but that's another kind of thing. So yeah, we'll look into it. The cost per mileage is ridiculous. Nobody uses those stations. So one way to do this is simplification. We talk about tax simplification. So maybe also think about, if they didn't spend so much time thinking about all these fixed costs, just look at their costs and charge the rates accordingly. I know we can't get there right away, but I think every time they come up, instead of looking to raise the rates, we should be looking at lowering the rates and just charging whatever the cost is per kilowatt hour or per cubic foot of gas. And think how much simpler it would be, just like tax simplification. We have all these rules and we do all these credits, but just charge me a simple rate. And then, you know, if they're going to continue this about being against energy efficiency, is there anything we can do to stop the monopoly? I mean, I don't mind it right now, but if that's the only case, maybe we need to look at something like that. And my last thing would be, it's like the fairness. I've been reading in the paper, there's people with 12,500 square foot homes. And then there's the persons with 1,000 square foot homes, 1/10 of that. And this is going to unduly burden those people. Whereas there's other people that use all that energy, they should be paying for it. So thank you for those considerations.
Sarah Lynn Cunningham.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sarah Lynn Cunningham. I live on Edgeland Avenue here in Louisville in the Tyler Park neighborhood. I'm a licensed professional engineer registered here in the state of Kentucky, and I have spent most of my career working in linear infrastructure. I would call it sewers. So I answer to Poop Queen. I want to thank you for traveling here to have this hearing for us. It's a big help not to have to go to Frankfurt during the workday. I want to speak to you from two perspectives, the first of which is as an engineer. I want to note that if this whole auditorium were a neighborhood, it's going to cost to run the sewer or the electric line or the gas line or whatever up and down these streets. It doesn't really matter if there's, one person on this block or 7 people on that block. It costs us the same to run it. But when we recover the cost, it matters. And so the only reason we have these utilities in certain parts of this state, as rural as this state is because we developed the concept of a natural monopoly. If we left services like this to the free market, in my neighborhood, I live on a 1/13 of an acre, there might be 2 sets of gas lines and 2 sets of power lines because everybody be competing for my dollar. But in rural areas like where my boyfriend is, he has to walk a 1/4 of a mile to get his newspaper. It's really expensive to provide him infrastructure. So again, I want to emphasize the reason we have universal service in this country is that we developed this concept called the natural monopoly, meaning it just makes sense to have a monopoly. But we all know what happens when you have a regular monopoly. Bad things happen to the consumer because they're pinned down and they don't have a lot of choice. So the concept says we guarantee a profit, but we put lots of rules in there to protect the public and the public interest. And this is where I think the conversation is losing track of this history. That too much now we're analyzing LG&E's requests as if they were General Electric. But General Electric gets competition from other companies and these folks don't. So that's the background of my comments. Where am I? So the next thing I want to point out is that in Louisville, if you're a low-income person, you're a renter. You may not rent an apartment in Jefferson County without these services in the facility. You have to have at least electricity. You have to have a method of heat. You can't get out of that. And if the government finds out you're living in a building without water and electricity, they can and will evict you because it's not healthy. So these people have to deal with all this. We need it to be fair. My biggest concern is the restructuring. I drive an electric car. I should pay more of the overhead of this utility than somebody who doesn't, because I'm using more power than other people. That would be fair. I want to say the other perspective that I want to give to you. Well, first I want to finish that thought because I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm starting to think about how much this bothers me. What also bothers me about this is it undercuts the financial return on energy efficiency and renewables. The thing I worry about the most is climate change. Climate change impacts everybody, but particularly the low-income folks and the people who live in low spots. In Louisville, we have an amazing number of people who live in the floodplain, not just along the river, but along creeks. And they get flooded out and they don't have the insurance to recover. This is a bad problem. We need to fix climate change. It ain't going to happen in my lifetime, but we need to get started. And energy efficiency and renewable power is the way we can do it and create jobs and lower people's overhead and make people more comfortable and productive. I don't know what there is to not like about all that. Now, this is the part where I get more upset. My foster son works as a dishwasher. You've heard me say this before. A lot of people work in food service in this country, and they're always limited in their hours because their employers don't want to pay them benefits. They don't have any elasticity in their income. My foster son, who has to have 2 roommates to get by, should not be paying the same share of the infrastructure of this utility as 2 6-digit income people living in a big house. That is just morally wrong and regressive. That he is staying off of welfare and out of jail is a really big accomplishment, and it really upsets me that people are undermining people like him to try to take care of themselves and do the right thing. I also want to note that the utilities right now have filed a bill, Senate Bill 255, wherein they would get to propose to you how they're going to change the rules by which you evaluate what they are proposing to do in the way of changing the rates. We might as well get rid of you because they don't want to have to go through all this hassle. They're trying to ruin net metering. I think we have a problem of greed. And I think greed is a serious word and it's a serious accusation, but I don't know what else to conclude. So bottom line is, I please want you to remember that you're supposed to protect the consumer from monopoly power. And please, take the long view. If we got to protect this planet, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Wallace McMullen.
Hello, my name is Wallace McMullen and my address is 4324 Dover Road, Louisville. I'm here, among other hats, as a member of the Green Sanctuary Committee of Thomas Jefferson Unitarian Church. We didn't have time to perfectly wordsmith the mutual statement, but just to let you know there's a body of people that agree with the general sentiments I'm going to express. Commissioners, I would like to submit that LGE and KU should pursue a rate structure that avoids disproportionate and unreasonable burdens on low-end Kentuckians, which some other folks have articulated very well tonight. Their current proposal is not fair, just, or reasonable, as is required by Kentucky law. Electric and gas bills should promote efficient infrastructure, energy conservation, and local generation of clean electricity like rooftop solar. They should have low mandatory monthly fees. I consider LG&E's constant attempts to squeeze the small customers reprehensible. A rate structure that encourages efficiency would also enhance electric grid reliability, help the company to respond to changing market conditions, and help meet new and emerging regulations. Burning lots of dirty coal and encouraging inefficiency is not a strategy which wins in the long term, and the customers get hurt before the company does. I repeat, burning lots of dirty coal and encouraging inefficiency is not a strategy which wins for Kentucky in the long term. It may help the company in the short term, but the customers get hurt before the company does, and we all will suffer eventually from pollution and inefficiency. I note that LG&E has canceled virtually every efficiency program and is seeking some $60 million in enhanced revenue this year, while arguing the big industrial users should get preferential treatment. That combination is terrible public policy, as well as being just greedy. Now, this is the third time in 4 years that I've been standing here testifying against LG&E restructuring their rates to hurt small users. It's aggravating, and commissioners, I urge you to craft a ruling that will end this repeating attack on residential customers. Further, we all know that climate change is real and that carbon-free generation is highly desirable. Yet I understand that LG&E has spent some $200,000 on vigorous lobbying to make rooftop solar installations unpalatable, and we see undesirable bills advancing in the legislature from their efforts. I'm a retired person living on a pension, and I'm annoyed that the company seems to be on an intense quest to prevent me from reducing my utility bills by having a small solar system. Commissioners, I hope you can discourage them from this harmful behavior. Also, Commissioners, another point I'd like to raise with you. You must allow public interest groups to intervene in this case. Please stop acting like a bodyguard for large, rich companies than the monopoly utilities. Please start acting like a fair referee. It's shameful that the Kentucky Public Service Commission has gone to court to block intervention by groups representing low-income Kentuckians. It looks like class warfare. The utilities didn't ask for them to be excluded, and the Kentucky Attorney General says that their input is necessary and relevant to the case. You need to fairly include good public participation. That means allowing public interest groups to intervene in these proceedings, which are of great public interest. I say please do so. Thanks for listening to my statement.
Thank you. Nancy Givens.
Hi, my name is Nancy Givens. I live here in Louisville, in the Brownsboro-Zorn area. I appreciate very much that you are here and hearing from each of us. I regret that I didn't have time to prepare formal remarks, so my remarks may be a little bit disjumbled and will be brief. I'll follow up with some written comments. Many have noted, and I fully agree, that the proposed rate change will cause prohibitive burdens, not only to low and fixed income, but also to average income. And that the market signals that are set up are wrong, and we're creating a disincentive to energy conservation, energy efficiency at a time when it is imperative that as a society we shift our approach to energy production. The international and national bodies have come out with clear and definitive evidence, evidence that we absolutely must shift away from fossil fuels and towards clean and renewable energy. And a very important part of that is reducing energy consumption overall without impacting, hopefully without impacting quality of life, which is very doable and is being proven all across the world today. I am concerned that the way LG&E is structured is interfering with the ability of our society, of our community, of our city to be able to move forward on these very important goals. And being able to take a rate case and isolate its considerations from these larger societal issues completely misses the point of what we need to be doing with our energy production. As I said, I'll send more detailed comments because I wasn't able to really construct my comments fully. One thing that was said in the earlier presentation was that the PSC role is to respond to a picture of reality. Now, that reality that's being responded to apparently is strictly in terms of bottom line, business sense, making shareholder profits, etc. But as Sarah Lynn spoke to, we are in a monopoly situation, and so energy is an essential service. We cannot exempt the business model from societal need and from the needs of the city. And so I strongly urge that the PSC consider these larger issues. I'll send additional commentary, and I urge rejecting this rate case increase.
Thank you. Julie Donna.
Hi, I'm Julie Donna. I live in Louisville, kind of right across the street from here. Thank you for coming here and listening to us. And I'd just first like to echo a lot of other people's thoughts about what is just and fair and reasonable for LG&E and for our utilities. And I think that it's only fair that we are rewarding individuals and families for their energy conservation efforts and for their solar investments. But I'm most concerned with the energy burden that this places on our city's most vulnerable residents and whether that's just. And also speaking about the picture of reality that needs to be responded to. The reality is that our climate is already changing, and we in Louisville are seeing a greater number of extreme weather events every year, such as heat waves. And as we see the number of extreme weather events increase year by year, equitable access to energy becomes life or death for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Barbara Boyd.
Good evening. I'm here because I object, I'm too close to the mic, I object to any rate increase, especially the fixed rate increase. We just had one in 2017, and we're just starting in 2019, and they're asking for another. If the fixed rate increase is allowed to happen, then those weather strips that we took the time to put around our windows and doors and efficiency windows that we invested in will be all for naught. There's no sense in trying to energize our house where we use less energy. The other thing that I want to comment about is in the past when the rate increase happened and PSC fines for the public, what is returned to the consumer is returned in pennies instead of dollars that the increase cost us each month. The federal corporate income tax reduction is pretty much a windfall for LG&E because LG&E is a corporation, and those federal corporate income tax, that reduction probably goes across the board, probably goes towards employees, towards renovations of LG&E and equipment. We didn't get that as middle and low income. Oh, by the way, I live in the Chickasaw area of West Louisville in Jefferson County. And another comment I want to respond to is the rate study. I don't think that charge should be passed on to the residential consumer. We didn't ask for it. LG&E wanted it, LG&E already has a 10% profit. And I know that this rate increase, I really feel strongly that if this fixed rate increase does happen, it's only going to go to bonuses for the executives. Our increases, at least my increase, has only been maybe 2.5%. 1 year, nothing at all. And you're asking for more than we are getting in return. I mean, it is a necessity. We have to have heat and gas if the consumer uses gas. But I really wish you would take into consideration the 40% that when they look at their LG&E bill every month, they might have to call and make arrangements. And that's kind of embarrassing because it tells LG&E that we can't afford to pay it when the bill comes in, that we need an extension of time. So I wish you would take all of that into consideration and deny the fixed rate increase or any increase at all. It's been less than 2 years since LG&E got their last increase.
Matthew Taylor.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Taylor, and I actually also live in the West End community. Throughout the comments this evening have been really, really good. But I think one of the things is the decision makers who, with LG&E and from this commission, need to consider what is actually low income. The last GLI report that was brought out back in, I want to say June of this past summer, said that the median income in the West End was $11,000. $11,000. Now, many of the people, this was just per the GLI, but the thing is this, is that the decision makers can't fathom living off of $11,000. I'm sorry, because the thing is that you go off, you live in your communities, but the communities that define low income are not being considered. They're not being taken serious. And the truth of the matter is this, is that they're not even, I mean, from a moral standpoint, for them not to be considered. It is making this whole thing really, really an emotional issue, because LG&E should take that in consideration. Now, the stats that were given earlier today, I'm still having to do some research on them, but the average West Louisvillian who's not here because, like we pointed out, they can't make it here because of the socioeconomic factors of transportation, having to work. These are things that I don't think the commission nor the LG&E executives really take into consideration when they're talking about these rate hikes. So with that, I think the primary thing would be to define what is low income and how it really truly adversely affects their livability or their livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you. LaGlenda Reed.
I'm LaGlenda Reed, and I'm a public school teacher with Jefferson County Public Schools, and he took the words right out of my mouth because that's the main concern while I'm here. I work 3 days a week as a substitute teacher for Jefferson County Public Schools. I make $16.23 an hour, okay? I go down to the LG&E because the other 2 days I'm working towards getting my teacher certification at the University of Louisville. Because for some reason they didn't accept my credentials here. So I'm working towards becoming a full teacher so that I can make a livable wage. But what I'm here for is to say we do need to define what's low income. By the time they get through taxing me and I pay child support, I have nothing. When I go down to these social services offices and try to get some help from my LG&E, they tell me that I'm not low income just because I have a job. They don't look at the fact that I make less than $11,000 a year. You got to figure I only work 9 months out of the year, 4 months, well, not even 4, 8 months out of the year as a teacher. Then the rest of the year, I'm still looking for another job, if not having to rent rooms out in my house to make it. So the Louisville Gas and Electric is not fair. When I call you all for some help and to get an extension on my bill, the first thing you all do is say, man, we can't help you, we're going to cut you off. Then you give me the numbers to call the social services office. I go down there, they say I'm not low income. Now you're going to raise the rates again. And the lady left, but I have to agree with the lady that said that's between a loaf of bread for me, a can of tuna. I got kids I have to support. When my son comes down, my son is 15 years old. He stands 6'4". He eats me out of house and home. So they don't give me that much food stamps either, because everything is defining. You're just on that little line of between $11,000. It's way lower than that, brother. It's the average income person makes less than $7,000 in the West End if you're on any type of social service, or if you get any type of Social Security check. We all down there living on affordable housing. I don't qualify, of course, because I got a job. So I'm here to stress the fact that we do need to redefine what low income is when you all are making these decisions, because people like me can't pay the LG&E bill. You all, and I think the LG&E people here, you all have me on this fixed rate plan where I have a 3-bedroom house, by the way. You all have me on a fixed plan where I'm supposed to pay $112 a month, and my bill will never go up. But if I don't pay it on the day, you guys take me off the plan. That's another problem. It's a real big problem. They do. They take you off the plan. Oh, you didn't pay it on time and we giving you a break? You're not giving me a break because I'm still low income. So they want to take me off the plan. And for the public here, you all keep asking these people how much the profit they're making. Everybody write this down. You can go to pplweb.com. It's on their website. Everybody write it down. I just went there and looked it up, but my phone went dead, so I wrote it down for you. Their profit was $7.4 billion annually. So it's on their website. You don't have to keep asking these people because they vague about it, and they, like the lady said, they keep giving you all this. This is between 2018 to date. It's on their website. You don't have to believe me. Go to the website for yourself. Also, on May the 14th, 2019, the investors will have a meeting here in Lexington, Kentucky at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. I wish I could be there, but I have to go to school. It's at 401 West High Street in Lexington. It's all on the website. Quit asking these people, because these people probably don't know. They just here to represent the people to try to help us come to a happy medium. But you all can go to the website and look this information up for yourself. And in the corner of their website, they have what their investors do and all that. But I don't understand all that. But that's why I'm here. I'm here to speak on people like me that's right in the middle and that can't afford to pay their bills. And it does need to be reconsidered. Because, again, like I said, you all did help me with the rate. But if I can't pay it, then they want to cut me off. So what happened? I got out of work over 3 weeks for the holiday break. From December to January, we don't work because we're on 3-week school break with Jefferson County Public Schools. So what happened? Let me tell you what happened. I couldn't pay my bill because I'm 3 weeks without a paycheck. So now I'm off the plan. So now my bill is at home fluctuating. So I have to wake up every morning and turn my LG&E off and everything in the house, because I got to watch that bill every month for my 3-bedroom house for me and my son. So these are things that's not being considered. Like the man said, y'all never look at the little people. And we should. You know, there's a moral issue here. And I'm out here educating our kids. So I hope y'all will take my story to heart. Thank you so much for your time.
Mary Love.
I thank you for being here and for listening to all of us, because I know it's not easy. My name is Mary Love. I live in Oldham County, just north of LaGrange, and in the LG&E service area. I'm a member of Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, of the Sierra Club, the Alliance for Appalachia, Mid-Kentucky Presbytery, etc., etc. I'm here today to speak against LG&E's proposed change to the base rate charge for electrical service. For me, and I know for all of you as well, and many of LG&E and UK's customers, the increase in the base rate will only mean a slight increase in our utility bills. But for thousands of people who live on fixed incomes or have low-income jobs, this increase will have a lasting and potentially devastating effect. A $4 a month increase, which is what it would be with LG&E, in our power bills, won't mean that I have to give up anything. But for a low-income mother with young children, this will mean their children could have to live with less food for 1 day a month. These 4 bottles of baby food in this bag cost me $4 at a local Kroger. This is what might be missing from their baby's meals in a month. This doesn't look like much, but over the month and years, these missing meals will add up in the health of these children. Increasing the fixed charge makes it difficult for all of us, but particularly for low-income customers, to manage bills by conserving energy. And it discourages all of us from conserving energy, which only leads to more energy usage to heat and cool our homes and businesses, and more severe effects of climate change. LG&E built capacity not just to serve retail customers, but to provide wholesale power to the community-owned municipalities as customers. Now the municipal customers are leaving and forming their own group called KYMEA, Kentucky Municipal Energy Alliance. There are costs associated with the loss of the municipalities, and LG&E is trying to shove those costs on us. We consider this unfair, especially as it is shoved into fixed costs. Providing service to West Louisville with intense density and multifamily housing costs less than servicing long stretches of sparsely populated R4 and R5 areas in Jefferson County. So West Louisville subsidizes wealthy white Louisville. I challenge the PCUS to investigate if there might be a disparate racial impact when it comes to fixed meter costs. I implore you to reject these rate base increases. Thank you very much. And now I have to go to choir practice.
Amanda Fuller.
Anybody want baby food? I don't have one.
Hi, my name is Amanda Fuller. I live in Louisville. I'm an LG&E customer. I live in the Paristown Point neighborhood. Thank you for being here this evening. Maybe you are also frustrated, as many of us are, that we were just here 18 months ago talking about a rate case before the PSC. I heard $4 before this meeting as the proposed increase, and I just added up in Mr. Melnikovich's presentation, and I saw more like $15 a month. So maybe that's a clarification that we need here. $4 is a lot different from $15 a month. It's a lot of baby food. I would urge you to deny the rate increase because it is unfair, it is unjust, and it is unreasonable. I also call into question the rate of return that I'm hearing LG&E is getting, and they apparently got $67 million from the last rate case that they won, partly from you. The rate increase is regressive. I don't think a lot of people realize how many folks are getting their utilities cut off. I know you all don't control the water utility, but people get their water cut off quite a bit. I think those of us who've never had our water or electricity cut off do not realize how much that happens and how many families are living with their utilities cut off, one or the other, at different points in time. I have met people, a lot of people who have been impacted by that. and it's kind of invisible. We don't talk about it, we don't hear about it. So I'm very concerned about those people. I also would like to share that 1 out of 6 members of our community are food insecure, who worry about how much food they're going to have to eat from month to month. And these are in all neighborhoods, in all parts of the city, a lot of seniors, a lot of families, a lot of children. And these are the people that we're talking about who are impacted by utility rate increases. The rate increase is discriminatory against people who are trying to conserve energy for all sorts of reasons. It's also discriminatory against people who are trying to exercise some choice in choosing other kinds of energy. My husband and I chose to put on a small solar energy system on our house when we bought our house, because we wanted to use energy that was clean, that is affordable for us, and we think it's a good industry for Kentucky. It creates jobs, and it is our way of, you know, building some resiliency into the grid and producing some clean energy. And these rate structures disincentivize people from investing in solar energy, and it incentivizes the utility companies to keep burning coal, which is not good for us, as you have heard from other people. I know you also don't control, you know, the water and sewer, but we have all been hearing a lot that our MSD utility is going to be asking us for a rate increase this year too, or they've already been asking. So I think people are nervous about that, and seeing a $15 a month on average increase on our electricity and gas, in addition to seeing water and sewer going up, makes people very, very nervous. So I would like to urge you to deny the request, please. Thanks.
Thank you. Nicole Jackson.
Good evening. I am a resident of Louisville Metro as well, and I just want to repeat some of the comments that I've heard this evening, especially that West Louisville subsidizes wealthy white Louisville. And the PSC is covered by the U.S. Constitution and fair housing laws, and should investigate if there is inequity and the racial impact of fixed metered costs. Also, we do not want the cost of losing the municipalities to the Kentucky Municipal Energy Agency shoved onto us. And in closing, we do not want fixed monthly charges or a rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Cobble.
LG&E rate hike proposal. Thank you, Chief. Here's a copy of,
Thank you.
Of that message. And now, real quickly, the two issues are that we are not investors and only customers buying electricity and gas from LG&E, and therefore the proposed rate hikes, what they do is help LG&E to raise capital for its capital investments, but we are not investors, okay? And that right there makes the this process for years unlawful. And the second issue is that now, in this when this rate hike proposal was announced last September, it was premised on some infrastructure that LG&E wants to get done, which has historically been the case. But then when I brought this issue up before the Metro Council in September of 2018, that has been taken off the table. In other words, you cannot, to the first point, to the first legal issue here, you cannot, when we pay these rate hikes for these capital and for these investments, for these infrastructures that LG&E wants to get done, okay, those rate hikes go on into perpetuity, year after year, decade after decade, and long after these projects are paid for. And I make the quick point here to the Louisville Metro Council that LG&E owes us, okay, and that on these, when you issue the rate hikes on these premises, I mean, legally, lawfully, there should be a cessation point where that rate hike is cut off at a certain point when that project is paid for. And so on this basis, now even if this current rate hike, if you change the premise of this rate hike to where you just want to bolster LG&E's pricing structure, okay, it is still unlawful because you cannot compare. I mean, LG&E made $1.9 billion in profit, okay, in the last fiscal year, as I understand it. Now, that $7.9 billion was revenue that they brought in, but the $1.9 billion is profit. I mean, that alone negates the legal premise for a rate hike, okay. But these hikes, that you're asking for is going to go directly, since you're already making $1.9 billion in profits. These rate hikes are going to either go to the bottom line or they're going to go to capital gains, and that makes this woefully illegal. I mean, then that begs the question, okay, well, why? Once again, why are you asking for? Ooh, Jesus! Why are you asking for more money? And it is simply not warranted. Okay, and then quickly here, do you know if LG&E are doing stock buybacks? Are they buying their stock back? Now you have to know that, I'm sure, as the commission.
We can't answer your questions.
Oh, okay.
That's the problem.
The question is, I mean, that's what last year, and this is to the information I gave you all on the 3 monetary policies that is stifling the world's economy right now. Is that, I mean, to the issue of stock buybacks, last year Goldman Sachs announced last August that the corporations, the U.S. corporations, will be, the stock buybacks for 2018 is $1 trillion. Okay, and this fervor has been building for some time, year after year, and so the question is, it's something I have to research on my own, is LG&E doing stock buybacks? And if they're doing stock buybacks, then they don't warrant a rate increase, okay? And the other issue here, okay, since the pricing structures are, my time almost up, okay, since the pricing structure is, I mean, you're asking us to add to LG&E's capital gains and very likely the profits. When they announce these rate hike proposals, they should include what is LG&E's condition of capital, what is the capital outlays and the capital gains for the last fiscal year, as well as the profit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Eric Evans.
Hello, I'm Eric Evans. I live in Buchel. I'm a concerned citizen. Also, I'm representing AARP. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization with a 60-year mission to improve the lives of the 60-plus. On behalf of our 470,000 members in the Commonwealth, AARP appreciates the opportunity to comment on this rate case. Many of our members are on fixed and low incomes and already have trouble making ends meet. Accordingly, we have numerous concerns with the filing, which would be especially hard on this group. AARP's recommendation is as follows. There should be no increase to the monthly customer charge. This proposed rate increase is too high. As we have successfully argued in many other states, the customer charge should not be expanded beyond its traditional role of collecting metering and billing costs. Simply stated, other costs should not be shifted for recovery from the customer charge. The proposed rate hike means that even if you turned off all your electric and natural gas appliances in your home, you still get charged. Increasing the monthly service charge is unfair and disproportionately burdens low-income and older Kentuckians, many of whom are living on fixed incomes and struggling to pay for food, rent, medicine, and utility bills. This hike will make it impossible for low-income people to manage utility costs and will be an unnecessary burden to all families. Many of such customers are low-use customers as well. Increasing the fixed monthly charge also discourages conservation and energy efficiency because the per kilowatt hour and the per therm rate is reduced. The PSG should follow the lead of other state commissions, including Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Arizona, to name a few, and keep the customer charge where it is so customers can continue to control their energy spending. In addition to concerns about the rate hike on monthly customer service charge, AARP agrees with the Attorney General and most of the folks here that the revenue increase is just too high. AARP has seen nationwide utility push to redo rate design and cost allocation based on such studies, which in general seemed to be designed to shift more cost to the residential customers, something that we certainly don't want. AARP thanks the PSC so much for giving us the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Martin Chadzinski.
Chairman, fellow commissioners, good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Martin Onzinski. Just came here from my house in Prairie Village over in the south end. I'm a residential customer of LG&E. And by the way, LG&E, I'm going to thank you as well, because as a U.S. military member, I'm retired now, and later as a diplomat, United States diplomat, I've lived in many countries where every single house that wanted electricity and every single hotel and business had to have a generator in the side yard or the backyard. We don't need to do that here. I want to recognize the work that LG&E does. It's not easy, although you are in it for profit, but thank you for keeping my house lit up and warm. Now, why am I here? I want to thank you, because I've never met you before, and this is a good way to meet you. Thank you for protecting the citizens of Kentucky and our interests. I joined the Army as a private. I was a very lucky man. I got to retire as a field grade. When I was a captain stationed at Fort Knox, I took a look around and said, wow, this is a pretty good state, better than the state I grew up in, better than the state I went to college in. I like the city. I bought here. Here I am. My family's just down the road. Since then, because I am in my high earning years, I'm one of those six-figure people, like one of my colleagues. I was lucky enough to have the money to invest in our family's future, but also in Kentucky, because I like it here. I chose to move here. Put in several dozens of thousands of dollars of solar on our roofs, on a roof and a patio, and put in a ground source heat pump. Some people call it geothermal, it's really not. Why? To minimize our gas bill and to minimize our electricity bill. Actually, I have a Ford Fusion plug-in hybrid, and so does my son. He bought it first, and because he's smarter than me, I ended up 2 years later buying another one. So, you know, we have our own little gas station. Why does that matter? Why am I speaking to you now? Recognize, I put my money, now that I have some money in my life, where my mouth is. I put it into our house here in Louisville because I live here. I like Kentucky. I like Louisville. So I put my money, several dozens of thousands of dollars into the ground and on the roof so that Louisville continues to be a good place to live for our kids and frankly for all of us in this room. I would like you as the commissioners to consider when the publicly regulated monopolies, which of course have to make a profit because otherwise, you know, nothing would work, ask for rate hikes and different rate structures. I ask you to consider, especially for low-income people, but also I used to be low-income and probably I will be someday when I'm on a fixed income. And my son, well, let's not talk about that. But if we, Kentuckians, put our money where our mouth is into our properties to improve them with solar and ground source heat pump so that our bills and our families' bills are less so we can invest into our own families. And frankly, we're helping people like LG&E and other utilities so you don't have to build another power plant because we're reducing the thermal loads, okay? I ask you whether the commission has considered, I understand it's still a minority which has the money to put their stuff into stuff like this, into investments like this, whether the commission has considered the just, fair, and equitable matter in the people who invest in ourselves here and in Louisville, whether the rate structure that the utility, the publicly regulated utility proposes accounts for this. Because frankly, if we all invest in, when we have the opportunity into things like this, we're investing into our families, but also into our city and into our region. We're investing into our jobs. There are Kentucky local crews who put all those systems in, you know, and they got paid for it. They were happy for the work. And frankly, I would much rather see a rate structure across Louisville, which has a lot of houses with a lot of south-facing roofs, which encourages solar development, so that LG&E does not have to build another power plant in the next county over, because it's a better investment. And as a private citizen, I ask you to consider my comments for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Betsy Bennett.
Hi, my name is Betsy Bennett, and I live in Louisville in the Wolf Pen Branch area. And I was here, gosh, I think less than 2 years ago, and I'm here again tonight to express my opposition to another one of LG&E's fixed rate hike requests. LG&E should propose a rate structure that avoids disproportionate and unreasonable burdens on low-income and fixed-income Kentuckians. The current proposal is not fair, not just, or reasonable as required by Kentucky law. The current utility rate should be designed to promote efficient infrastructure, energy conservation, and local generation of clean electricity like rooftop solar. This proposal does not. Thank you.
Thank you. Judy Lyons.
I'm Judy Lyons. I live on Garvin Place in Old Louisville. Thank you for being here and having this hearing and giving us a chance to express our opposition to what has been proposed. I oppose this rate hike because I think it's incredibly regressive. It's hardest on the people who have the least, and it totally goes counter to us conserving and saving our planet, saving our air, and I think that it's something that really needs not to go into place. So I encourage you to reject what has been proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Lyons was the last of the speakers to sign in. At this time, if there's anyone else in the audience who would like to come forward and make a statement, now's the time to do it. Ma'am, would you like to do that? Don't forget, since we don't have you down, you need to give your name and address.
My name is Brenda Erickson. I live at 7009 Fieldview Court, Louisville, Kentucky, 40291. I'm here to have you vote against the rate increase. We did all of the right things. We bought new energy efficient appliances, which we're still paying for. We put in all the new light bulbs to lower our utility uses, and we've done all the right things. And we were getting all of these in our papers that came each month from LG&E saying how good we were doing, and all of a sudden our bills went up. And we live on a very fixed income. There is no way on earth that we can pay this extra added increase in what they're asking. We can't do it. And if the city passes this tax increase on us, I don't know. I foresee homelessness in our future, and probably a lot of other elderly, fixed income people living on Social Security here in Louisville will be doing the same thing. And I'm begging you to please vote no on this rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hello. My name is Vicki Latif Wan, and I live in the Algonquin area of the west end of Louisville. I just want to say that I'm on a fixed income because I'm retired. And I want to bring a couple of things up. First of all, and this is to also help some of the other people too. For 3 years, I have not had a workable furnace, but I had a fireplace. So I used it. And so this year, my fireplace went out. Luckily, luckily, my council person left enough money as she retired out for people such as myself to get a free furnace. And I am eternally grateful. So some of you all might want to look into that who might have a situation. But last year of 17, the end of 17 going into 18, from November to December, I worked at a pharmacy for Thanksgiving and the Christmas, holidays. I have never seen so many senior citizens come in there switching out food and whatnot, also stealing. Not because they're people who normally just steal. These people are hungry. These people are hungry. What I see in situations like this, I see a lot of cognitive dissonance going here, because most people have not seen that kind of life. So you don't understand. And even with me, I had never actually seen that kind of life until I started working there, for the holidays. I have been fortunate in a lot of ways, and God knows I am grateful for my blessings. But everybody doesn't have that blessing. I've seen women come into those stores with babies that don't have proper clothing, not because They're just not buying it. But I hear them talking about they got to pay the LG&E. They got to pay, you know, the water bills, this, that, and the other. You know, my children don't live here. My children live in Lexington. But let me say this: where I live, on the corner, there are 2 school bus stops, and I get up because I watch the children from the windows. A lot of them don't have clothes. Some of them come out without socks because their parents are working 2 jobs and sometimes 3 just to keep things going. The young lady across the street from me works at night, which makes me nervous, you know, because she has latchkey children, and that's the only job that she can get, and another part-time job in the day. So I'm constantly looking, you know, out for these children. I am totally against any kind of rate increase, totally. And let me just say this too: when they installed my free furnace that I'm grateful for, I got a bill for almost $400 for services not used because I didn't have a furnace. I had to go down to LG&E and have a conversation with the lady sitting behind the desk. Now, I don't know if she thought that I was crazy or what, but she made me go home and take a picture of my meters on the outside of my house. I went there and did that. I brought the paperwork showing her where I didn't have a furnace. I didn't have a furnace. And at that time also, I didn't have a fireplace because it had broken. You know, so I took that and we sat there and went through. She showed me how it's read, and come to find out, what they did was they charged me according to what people were using in my neighborhood.
Oh, no. That's what I'm talking about. Y'all need to listen to me.
Right.
They really do. Hear us.
You know, so when I say cognitive dissonance, that's what I see. Anytime you raising rates like that on people, and I'm not one of those $900, you know, persons. I do make a pretty good retirement. I have been on my job 31 years, and I've been in the military, all of that, you know. But what I'm speaking for are those people that I see struggling. You know, I'm trying to paint a picture for you. These people are struggling, trying to make it. And this is the kind of stuff that causes criminal activity. So you might want to think, the homeless people that we were taking care of are being pushed around and whatnot, those people are not all of them have mental issues. A lot of them are on the street because they can't afford to do anything better. So I thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Come on.
Hello. My name is David Jordan. I live at 2820 Del Rio Place. I think it's West Butyl is what the area is called. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I am not in a lower income position like some of the people who have spoken here.
You might want to step and speak up so they can hear you in the back.
Sure thing. Thank you.
There you go.
I do not need to know. I'm not in a lower income position like some of the people who have spoken. I don't need to know the base rate that you are proposing, or not you, sorry, that LG&E is proposing hurts those who use less energy purposefully, those who pay attention to the energy. Specifically for me, I travel for work, so half the time I'm out of my area, and so I'm not using my energy anyway. So as an aside, that's also hurting me. Those who pay attention, those who use it purposefully, are those who want to change their installation or use new equipment, or it is people who use solar energy, and it's for those who don't have a choice by being too poor to let bills go unwatched. The Solutions Project, specifically Mark Jacobson, a scientist and professor at Stanford University, claims that to hit carbon neutral by 2050, KY needs to go from about 80% coal to 80% solar. This needs to be able to happen not to save the planet. It's been hit by worse. The planet's going to be fine. But more to sustain the communities and the world as we know and use it. Even outside of the rate for giving electricity back to LG&E, those rates, setting a base rate is highly discouraging for solar users. I hope you decline this change for those who choose to look environmentally forward, and for those who are forced to be financially vigilant in the present. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last call. Anybody else like to speak?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
What do y'all do with all the information y'all heard tonight? What do y'all do with that?
Well, this information will become part of the record in the case, and I think you'll be able to see it on our website. Is that correct?
But what does it do? What are we wasting our time? Is this going to make an impact at the legislative level when y'all go to court?
I think do
we have to come down there and speak again at the courthouse with y'all?
we're not a court.
We
All right?
understand that, but we just asked. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because all these people, we've heard it. We don't want to just be shown on the website. We're telling our stories because we want to make a decision. We want to make a difference. We want this not to happen. So with all of what we heard tonight, how does this information get to the right people? They saying they don't have nothing to do with it. They just gonna put it on their website.
No. I can't say too much, but I can say we are the people who will make the decision in the case, in the rate case. But I'll also say this, just from me personally. If there are people who have concerns about rates and about low-income ratepayers, the proper mechanism or the most effective mechanism is to talk to your state representatives and senators about law changes which would perhaps better address those issues in the long term. Okay?
Okay, Mr. Smith, so you suggest we get a petition and we present it to our legislators.
Hey, I can't ask you.
Y'all want to sign a petition as well to help us out.
No. Okay, is there anybody else, anything else? If not, thank you very much for coming. I can tell you the information that you've provided all will be considered, and the staff here will be available to speak to you, as will Mr. Cook from the Attorney General's office and representatives from Louisville Gas and Electric. Thank you very much for your participation. We appreciate it, and good evening.